Oh, looky who we have here
Who's
on
back?
the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. And welcome everybody in the chat. And welcome to the butt to my scuttle. Brad returned. And
Somehow.
it is fantastic. Look at that. How you doing, Brad?
I just want to say that our intro music sounds like futuristic softcore porn.
Yes, by design, my
Is that
friend.
you
We're
told
gonna
the
be
AI give us futuristic
yeah,
softcore?
exactly. That is fantastic. It's good to see you, sir.
It is good to see you, and it's great to be back. I love it here, and I love seeing everybody in the chat. It's been great being home finally, and then getting to start reconnecting with everybody, the extended Star Wars family. Uh,
Absolutely.
People that we've been friends with for actually a long time. That
Long
I mean,
time.
you and I, 5 years, and then
A little more than five. We
yeah,
we
I mean, the
started
podcast was 5.
right. Five
So
podcast was
yeah,
five in April, and Red Five, the network is around that. But we go way back to
yeah,
the JFK days.
yeah, to like 2 Twitter accounts ago.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. It's fantastic. We made a lot of friends along the way, and we deepened our friendship, I think. Obviously, I'm wearing my We Are Red 5 network T-shirt, and you've got our little Scarif. Remember back in the day when Drunk 3PO welcomed everyone
indeed,
to the Empire,
yes,
to the rebellion.
yeah.
I had to tongue in cheek and create my own.
I was
Kudos.
thinking about you welcome. You said it was always sunny on Scarif, and I was just thinking about the It's Always Shady on Scarif. Remember that
Yep.
campaign? That was a good one.
That was that was a good one too. And we got to thank our buddy Andrew for creating that shady meme. That was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Still got it on my phone somewhere.
we're
Fantastic.
so trolly.
We really have survived a lot through the early days of the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. I know, when we first started, we kind of attracted a certain attention of a certain group because we were voicing our opinion about the Last Jedi. And actually, the entire night tonight, we're going to be talking about our love for the Last Jedi, right?
We are. That is the topic. But before we get to that, I wanted to thank you and I wanted to applaud you for keeping it going. Really, I'm sure everybody in the chat knows my, both personal and professional life have been anything but, shall we say, stable over the last few years, being in the Navy and going through a lot personally. So I wasn't always able to be here. Obviously, it's been, I don't know how long it's been since I was able to record, but you kept it going. And you kept it going strongly that entire time. So I wanted to thank you for that and giving me a home to return to after all that.
Absolutely. Your name is still on the billboard up there. So absolutely. We had a couple of a couple of co-hosts and guests obviously that come through here all the time. But as Indiana Jones said to Marion, they're not you, Brad. They're not you.
It's close enough.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to be talking about it's May. Obviously a very important Star Wars month for a lot of fans. There's a lot of celebrations, a lot of hooplas, a lot of shenanigans going around town, and we are going to do some recaps, some discussions surrounding this month, because obviously, we last week was May the 4th. Everybody was celebrating. May the 4th be with you. We had the re-release of The Phantom Menace back in theaters, a 25-year-old movie, quarter of a century, and still broke records in the box office. I think that was pretty cool.
How much did it make? I don't know if I saw the updated numbers.
8 million domestic, about 15 globally.
Okay.
Not bad for a quarter of a century movie that everybody already owns.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I was surprised that I don't know where I was. The theater was not packed. I was expecting to see, you posted a little bit of that on Twitter. I was expecting to see a little more 1999 at the theater as far as the line went, but it's nice you can reserve your seats now, as opposed to fighting for them back in the day. But
back in the day,
there was still a good vibe there.
Absolutely. Theater. Yeah. I went to go see it Friday night, 7:00 ish, 7:30. And it would be generous to say that maybe there were 10 people in my theater, but
Really?
nice. I have a feeling that the downtown theater, the AMC downtown, was probably a little bit more packed, but I live like 5 minutes away from a theater, and it's just more convenient for me to take advantage of that than having to go all the way downtown with my son. I took my son. I didn't know how he would react, but he said he enjoyed it more than he thought. And he remembers obviously watching it. He wasn't born in 1999. And probably 90% of our followers weren't born in 1999, which is neither here nor there. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, and we started by talking the Last Jedi, and I look forward to talking to Andrew about this as well. We've been talking a lot on Twitter about the hate that the Phantom Menace has gotten over the years, and are we seeing it through rose-colored glasses now, or have we reevaluated? And how does that compare with Episode 8? Are they the same? So that's just something I'd like to talk about this evening as well.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to react to the Acolyte. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bad Batch and the series finale. No more Bad Batch. I wonder what they're going to throw in the bucket this time around. Some awesome things that are happening, both in Star Wars and in Nerdom. So, we'll bring Andrew out from the Science Fictionary and Coruscant Radio Underground. If folks didn't know, Brad and I, back in the day, we did our very first ever mega crossover podcast episode with Andrew and Marisha from Science Fictionary, and we enjoyed it so much that everybody started doing
it. Imitation's the highest form of flattery. I did not feel flattered at that point.
I felt it's wonderful to have you back, and it's wonderful to have Andrew back from Coruscant Radio Underground in the Science Fictionary. But we'll bring him out in a few minutes after I refresh my tea, which, as a matter of fact, I want to show you guys this wonderful mug that was...
Is it the kidney mug?
It's the kidney mug, yes. It's a wonderful design by our supporter, our Patreon supporter, and fellow Red 5 Network member, Danny from Comics and Cosmetics. Coexist, a non-denominational mug. I got some tea in there right now, but
we're all nerds.
We're all
big
nerds.
Happy family.
It is fantastic. All right, we're going to bring out Andrew in a minute and go refresh your drinks and order some food and come on back. We'll be back with more Scuttlebutt.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
And welcome back. We have returned with our guest of honor.
You told me that was me.
You're the co-host of the Scarif. But Andrew, welcome back to your second home away from crew.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back. This is my first time on anything, including my own show, since December. So
yeah, you've been busy. I think a lot of people have been busy the last couple of months. I think life has kind of taken over a little bit, and I don't know. Is it? I'm not sure if it's the fact that there's no Star. There wasn't any. I don't know that there was Star Wars on the screen, on the small screen. Just people, I guess, were talking about it privately. Not too many shows out there were out there. Our Red 5 chat was almost dead in the water. I was like trying to generate some conversation, but it's always great to have you over here, man.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Here we go. I'm gonna take this. What else here? There's some nice people in the chat. Let's say hello to the chat. We've got Amanda. What's up, Amanda? Damon is the first one.
Oh, I'm the Red 5 Tavern. All right. Well,
And yeah, of course you are. Amanda's in there. Nicole is in there. And I do want to mention Nicole has been doing such a wonderful job with the Red 5 reading project on the Red 5 network. I have been impressed beyond words. It has been fantastic to see the traction that she has gained. I was on the fives.
I'm sorry. You got to acknowledge that, Ro.
Hold on a second. I'm all the way up there.
It's in all caps.
It's in all caps. Oh yeah. Danny's here for Brad. Danny's here for Brad. I mean, we're all here for Brad. We got double digits in the chat. Do you wonder why? Is it coincidence? No, it's not. But
it's because he let me tweet again. And
that's. But I was saying I was the last person on the Red Fives on the Red 5 channel. I was smelling some science fiction books from C2E2, which I know it sounds weird, but
it's not weird.
These old books smell really good.
I'd have a candle called Old Books if possible.
But check this out. We've got the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. It's a UK magazine. Do you recognize any of the authors there, Andrew?
Let's see. Oh yeah, some big ones on there.
Yeah,
you can
right.
Read that. Holy, what is it? There you go.
That's for old folks. Get it closer.
Yeah. Now, that's some good stuff. Where'd you get that?
Free from C2E2. They had a booth, and the young lady said, "We got some free books here," and we kind of did a double take. Like, free? Did you say FREE? But it's part of the Science Fiction Outreach Project. It's a literary project that gives out books for free for the asking, and it seems like a really great project. And they were present here in Chicago at C2E2, which is a lot of fun. Excellent. All right, so let's see here. I know there's always things happening in the chat. Thanks for stopping by, Joker Face.
You promised me.
But absolutely. All right, so let's get down to business. I actually posted a poll regarding the re-release of the Phantom Menace, and I just asked if you got a chance to go out and see it or if you did not. And I think it's pretty neck and neck, 50-50, almost 47-52 or whatever. I grew up on public school math, so that really doesn't add up, but that's neither here nor there. But it seems like the poll was kind of split. Some people went to go see it, other people did not. I had a nice conversation with Scott Rifen earlier today. He was doing some live Twitter chats, and we were talking about our experience in the theater. But Brad, what was your experience in the theater just this weekend? Because I think Ubaldo was telling me that it's up to what, Wednesday or maybe Thursday, another day of Phantom Menace, but limited release, limited area. But tell me a little bit about your experience, Brad.
Yeah, so I was able to go down to South Carolina. My daughter graduated from a culinary school over the weekend, so I was able to get all the kids together. We're up to for anybody that's counting, that's five kids. I don't know how I reproduced 5 times, but I did.
You're almost as fertile as Sean.
I'm part of the Project Necromancer, and we're trying to get this cloning thing. But if you look at my kids, Project Necromancer is going pretty well, actually. But anyway, I was able to get all the kids together, and I was able to take my sons to go see the Phantom Menace. And one's a teenager, and one's 10 years old, and they were both, obviously, again, they weren't around to see it the first time around. They did see, they saw Solo, Rogue One, 8 and 9 in the theaters. But they never saw the prequels in the theaters. They were really excited to go see it, and they really enjoyed it. Sure. And that was nice. And I was commenting before the show, I was a little surprised that the theaters weren't a little bit busier. I thought we were going to have a little more of the 1999 feel as far as the lines go, but it is, like you said, 25 years old. still pretty good numbers for a 25-year-old movie.
Yeah.
But everybody in the theater still had a really good time. You could still feel the love for the movie, and we've posted it on Twitter or whatever you want to call it here. We really have reevaluated. I have personally reevaluated some of my thoughts on the movie. I don't know whether it was seeing it on the big screen, if that made a difference, but I thought I was going to be annoyed by Jar Jar as much as I was back in '99. I was not actually, and maybe having my son there, Jack said, he's like, I love him. And he's pretty cynical about a lot of things, but he thought he's a cool character. He subscribes to the Darth Jar Jar theory, so maybe that added to it. But both my sons, grew up loving Jar Jar, and maybe that changed my opinion on him. And like we posted on X, I think Jake Lloyd really got shafted for his performance. Going back and look at it, I mean, he's a 10-year-old, like no child. Just like when Leia got shit on, during the Obi-Wan series, I thought she did a great job.
Yeah.
And, I thought, going back and look at Jake, with George Lucas's writing and George Lucas's directing, I think Jake Lloyd did a fine job as Anakin with what he was given. So we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have to say, as cynical adults, I think we all should go see a Star Wars with a child, because I think we see it, we see it through their eyes, and their excitement kind of permeates throughout. So it's interesting to see that. Andrew, you said you did not have a chance to go see it, but
No.
What can you tell us about your first experience back in 1999?
I mean, so that would have been, I saw it the weekend of my 19th birthday. Like I live in a small town. Everybody that's heard me talk knows this. We had a theater, but it was small. It was kind of the old school theater with just the level seating and all that. It didn't have, it was kind of when all the new theaters, the Cinemarks and all that with the stadium seating and stuff started really popping up everywhere. There was one about an hour and a half drive from us. And so we rounded up. I think we took 4 or 5 carloads of people up to see it. And now for me, one of the really fun parts of that was the experience of going up however many weeks it was before when the tickets went on sale and waiting in that line with all the fans. Because that was really kind of the end of that experience. Like we didn't even have that experience by the time the second movie came out. The way ticket sales were done had totally changed. There was we didn't go wait in line for tickets for the second prequel movie. But for that first one, man, I stood in a line that wrapped all the way around a Cinemark, and that was a blast. So, man, the experience, like I've always said, the original trilogy is such a high bar for anything to measure up to. It's this kind of it's kind of this the debate we always have on our show about what between fantasy and sci-fi, where does Star Wars fit in and all this, and the truth is it's just this complete genre shattering thing. It's this pop culture icon. It's bigger than a genre. And so the prequels, they in some ways don't measure up. George was really changing a lot about the way movies were made, especially with that first one. You can see the growing pains of trying to grow the technology. You've got actors, I've always wondered if maybe they should have gone for more stage actors when they were adapting, people with stage experience when they were adapting to acting on a green screen with nobody there, because those people are used to acting in the black box. They don't, without somebody to act against. And there's a lot of things there, but overall, man, the prequels, and they tell such a fantastic story, top to bottom. All the pieces of something really fantastic are there. It leads into the original trilogy so well. Man, I love those movies, and that experience is one of my absolute, if not my favorite movie theater experience that I've had, because I wasn't around to have that experience. I was 3 when Return of the Jedi came out, so I didn't get that experience with the originals. But man, like Phantom Menace for where it does fall short of the originals, man, it's probably always going to be my favorite theater experience.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I was telling Brad, I live in Chicago, as you know, and I went to Los Angeles to the Grauman's Chinese Theater to wait in line with other fans for 2 nights out on the street. Again, I think young folks nowadays that can order their tickets on their phone and not have to worry about getting seats and running to the front of the line and all that stuff. I think they're missing out on an experience that is so amazing. I think I'm going to echo what you said, Andrew. I think Phantom Menace, the theater experience, the fan experience for me was probably in the top 5 moments of my like fan life, because it was the hype was there, the excitement was there. People were losing their minds.
The energy in the theater was unreal. Like I've never been in a theater that was like that.
Yeah.
Like before our sense. Like,
yeah.
And I think what you're saying is true, Ro. Like, don't get me wrong. I'll use Fandango or the Regal app now, and it's, I love being able to pick my seats. But back then, it was much more intentional. We had to go to the theaters ahead of time, get our tickets, and there was like a sense of accomplishment and a sense of security and satisfaction, knowing that you had your tickets, and you watched over those tickets like they were gold.
Yes.
I got everybody from this was pre-Navy, and everybody from the workplace was there, and we all went together. And like Andrew was saying, it was just electric. I never had the bravery to go in costume, but people dressed up in their cosplay and whatever scale that was, it's just showed how much they love the movies, and you put the merchandising with that. Taco Bell gave us all the best cups, and I think I still have my Anakin pod racer top. Yeah. The feeling was electric at that time, as Andrew said, and it was nice to be able to experience that again with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because you talk about being brave enough for cosplay. When I left Chicago, obviously I packed my bag and I said, you know what? I'm going to do something daring. I brought a Darth Vader tie. I said, I'm going to wear a Darth Vader tie and, represent my fandom. I get there, Hollywood and Vine, in front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater. There are like stormtroopers and Boba Fett's walking to and fro, crossing the street, Darth Vader's everywhere. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm a little underdressed. So it's, cosplaying is another animal. It's definitely something that, Nicole and I just went to C2E2 with Todd and everyone from WSTR. It's one of those things that, and Andrew, this, being prevalent in con life. It's something that I recommend fans do if at all possible. I know, not a lot of towns and cities have conventions, but if you're able to go to one, it's really nice to kind of go nerd out with other people that like the IPs or the products that you like, either Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. But it's fantastic.
Oh, 100%. I mean, at this point, you'd have to really live in the middle of nowhere to not have some kind of con within driving distance of you. And I tell people all things, we love the big, we love Star Wars Celebration and Dragon Con, which is a logistical nightmare, but it's fun. But and I tell people, like, there are so many smaller cons. Like in a month, we'll be going to Mississippi Comic-Con. That's the smallest one we do every year. But there's always a handful of really good people, really good actors there. It's smaller, it's more intimate, and it's a blast. And man, that's a great way to jump into it, is with a slightly smaller con, and then figure out where you want to go from there. Because I know for some people, going to that really big con is kind of an overwhelming thought. Because when people think about it, they think about things like New York Comic-Con and San Diego Comic-Con, things like that. Right. I mean, even to see pictures of them in Star Wars Celebration, man, Star Wars Celebration last year, like the one I went to out in Anaheim wasn't too bad. I don't even think I would have wanted to be at the one last year. It looked like they had people crammed in that place like sardines.
Yes, right. You see, there's pictures of people in the hallway. They were like this.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah.
They should choose bigger facilities, like the one in New Orleans.
Yeah. Hint, hint. Exactly.
So
Brad,
what were you? Yeah, I was going to say what. So what were your, 1999? You just saw the movie. I posted this to Roe that the last line of Fanboys. Anybody that remembers that movie, the last line. "Oh, what if the movie sucks?
Yeah.
So what were your immediate thoughts of the movie after seeing it in 1999, and how does that compare to your opinions of the movie now?
I just spoke with that idea. I spoke with Scott Rifen last week. The episode 189. We did talk about that, but as soon as I walked out of the theater, the only thing that came to mind was thinking to myself, "Wow, there's a fart joke in Star Wars now."
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things that throws you back. I guess seeing the original trilogy at a certain age and then seeing the prequels at an older age, you're not that little kid anymore. You don't laugh at the same things. And seeing it, just this weekend again with my son, you had said it too, Brad, that Jar Jar didn't bother you as much this time around because it seems like for some reason it seemed like Jar Jar was like front and center back in the
Yeah.
day, but I think
Yeah.
that was an illusion because now it's like you I guess just like Qui-Gon says, you need to focus on your reality to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, we get past his dialect, and he's a fun supporting character. And I mentioned this on one of our episodes a long time ago. You talked about age. Age does make a difference, but Phantom Menace back in the day, a few years ago, was a great gateway drug, so to speak, for my kids to get into Star Wars because
Sure.
they were at that perfect age to appreciate Jar Jar stepping in shit in Mos Espa. And that was hilarious to Dylan, my younger son, and he still loves that part. But age does make a difference, and George Lucas did speak to that years later. He intentionally made Phantom Menace more childlike because he knew how dark it was going to get with 2, and then with especially 3. So he wanted to start it off lighthearted.
Yeah.
But
Interesting. Yeah. Phantom Menace back in the theaters. Somebody mentioned it. I think it was Crystal that mentioned it, or some folks mentioned it in the chat. I really do miss Star Wars on the big screen. I know we've had a lot of Star Wars on the small screen animation. We had Ahsoka. Brad, we talked about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. We just had an episode on that. We kind of redid a revisit. But
just give me the cliff notes on that. I don't want.
It's okay.
I don't want to revisit it.
It's okay. But yeah, Star Wars really does belong on the big screen. There's a certain specialness to an event film like Star Wars. Brad, I'm going to ask. I'll ask both of you guys because this is kind of related to this. A while ago, Qui-Gon said that there's two, or not Qui-Gon. Liam Neeson was doing an interview, and he said that nowadays it seems like there's too much Star Wars. Too much Star Wars waters down the IP. It's not special anymore. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of talked about this a while ago. I would sort of agree with oh man, that's hard. I guess if all of this stuff was good, this might
then nobody would care, right? Yeah.
But if we had one good movie every 3 years, and small things like, I mean, we were satisfied with one good thing every 3 years, and then the supplemental material like the books, the comics, and stuff like that. But I like the shorts, like Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire. I like those, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is superfluous at this point. But again, I think I'd be, singing a different tune if it was all quality material.
Right. Exactly. So you mentioned Tales of the Empire. We're going to be talking about that in a bit. But Andrew, what do you think of Liam Neeson's quote?
I mean, I agree pretty much. I think with what Brad said, it's really and as we've had this conversation about the MCU, it's a quality problem. It's not a quantity problem. And as long as you turn out quality material, nobody's going to complain.
Right.
I mean, well, I say nobody. I don't literally mean nobody because
Sure.
you know we all know those people, but it's you're always going to like. I don't know. I just don't believe that there's such a thing as too much good material, too much good story. We certainly, I mean, when you look at the pace they were turning out books back in the 90s, we didn't get tired of those. I went and bought every one
Sure.
of them that came out and read it the week it came out. And that was, I mean, like, I don't know how many books came out in the 90s. I've never looked at the number, but it was kind of unreal. But that's kind of the thing right now. Like, I don't think we need multiple. I don't know. I don't think we need to go to the Marvel model completely. I mean, but I think a movie a year or even a movie every 2 years is a fantastic idea. But and a couple, you know, shows and these specials sprinkled in there. But you know, right now we don't even have the supplemental material just isn't up to par. Like for a long time, we were happy because the supplemental material we were getting was good enough to fill the gap. We were getting good stories, you know, the Thrawn stuff and all that stuff. We had good writers. We had Kevin J. Anderson writing Star Wars books. You know, Timothy Zahn was kind of given free reign to do what he wanted. Stackpole, man, Aaron Alston. We had great writers writing Star Wars books, and they haven't brought a lot of those people back, even though they've practically begged to come back, like Stackpole. Who I listened to at a con a few years ago say, yeah, I've asked about coming back.
Drew Karpshin with the Bane series.
Yeah. R.A. Salvatore wrote a Star Wars book. I mean, we had big names, and now they're just taking chances on fan fiction writers.
Yep.
It's like, come on now. Like, I don't care if you take some chances here and there, but give us some, like, there are plenty of big authors out there that I'm sure would love to write Star Wars books. I mean, you're not going to go get Kevin J. Anderson back because he's so tied up doing Dune now, but there's got to be other people out there you can bring in. And so I don't know, but I agree. You know, overall, I agree with Brad. I think that, yeah, it's only too much if it's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you start to see the, you know, the cracks in the foundation. People start to, you know, discuss those sort of things, but you're right.
I'm sorry, this might be a stupid question, but do you think Disney thinks they're putting out quality content, or do you think they're just happy with putting out content?
That's a great question because I don't think a big company wants to put out crap because they want to be able to sell it, but there are times when us as fans, as consumers, I think we have to obviously voice our opinions. Do we like it? Why don't we like it? And then just let the galaxy kind of sort itself out. But I don't know. I think they know
they're not
watching.
Yeah, I think they think they're putting out good stuff. I think they think some of the fans are stupid, and I think they think that, and I think they're putting out a lot of this material that they think is good, knowing that a huge portion of the fan base wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
The High Republic stuff, it was not written for me.
No.
I don't know who it was written for, but it wasn't written for me.
I stopped after the second book. I couldn't.
Same. I got halfway through the second book and just like put it up. I couldn't get through it.
Now I don't like, and you know me, Ro, like I love the Easter eggs and I love when it all ties together. Now, if there is a reference to High Republic, I'm sure I'm missing that reference.
Sure.
I'm sure it's in some book that I haven't read and I'm not going to read, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel going into, once June comes around, that's how I feel going into the Acolyte. I mean, I'm excited for the Acolyte because it looks kind of like, you guys know that I like my Star Wars dark and moody. This looks, kind of dark and serious. There's no cute aliens with daddy issues, as I usually say. But it's, I'm sure that I'm going to miss certain references to the High Republic, certain things that are in those books. And I too stopped like right in the middle of the second book. I couldn't stomach it. It was just not for me.
No, they're focused on the wrong things.
No, I never in my life thought at this point in time that I would turn around and go, the best books in this era of Star Wars are these, so at least some of the best is the Aftermath trilogy. I complained about that trilogy.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Nonstop when it came out.
Hey, don't get kicked off the show. You were I got into a war with that man on Twitter. All right, let's not get into that. But I mean, but what you're saying is true. Unfortunately, now that I think about it, which is pretty bad. But someone mentioned Jonathan Jackson Miller in the chat, and I actually just received a book in the mail from that author, signed copy of Obi-Wan. Thank you, Ro. Thank you, Ro, for that. And we were talking about that. He wrote Obi-Wan right before Disney took over, and that was one of the last ones that didn't make the cut to be considered canon, which sucks. But he did just write The Living Force, which you mentioned Red 5 reading. I'm glad they picked a great book for the book club, and I'm about halfway through it right now. And that's a good story too. And it's anything that's right in the episode 1 time frame and involves Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, I'm gonna love it. So I do recommend following the Red 5 reading club, and also picking up that book, The Living Force by Jonathan Jackson Miller. There's a lot of good stuff, and it does, I can see it tying into a lot of Qui-Gon's remarks in The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, did we talk about? I know a while ago. I mean, we spoke with Claudia Gray, Brad, you and I, and it was a great discussion. But some of the other books during that era were really fantastic. We had Master and Apprentice, obviously by her too. What was the other one? The one with Dooku and Ventress.
Oh, that was a Cavan Scott book. But Cavan Scott's done a lot of the High Republic stuff too. But
I enjoyed that book. So I don't know, like when you got all the authors together to
it depends what they're focused on. If they're focused on story and telling the Star Wars narrative, then they can be good books. If they're focused on pushing other things, then they're going to be trash.
Ricks and screws.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's well, we'll see what happens. But Tales of the Empire, Brad, you mentioned that a couple of minutes ago, and you are obviously wearing your wonderful Imperial insignia hat. You obviously can see that I'm Empire centric behind me as well. What are your thoughts on Tales of the Empire? Because I think you started watching it before I did. And you obviously were telling me to watch it, stop everything and watch it. I told my brother as well. And I was the first 5 minutes of that first episode, I was floored. But why don't you give your 2 cents on Tales of the Empire as you experienced it?
Well, I really enjoyed Tales of the Jedi. I think that was last year. Tales of the Jedi came out.
Right.
So I was excited when I saw the small trailer for Tales of the Empire. I wasn't sure what to think about it, or what if I was going to like it. But the two main stories. One about Morgan Elspeth from the Ahsoka series, as well as the Mandalorian, and the second half about Barriss Offee, who we last saw in the Clone Wars series, I believe. I loved it because again, just like we spoke about a few minutes ago, I'm a completionist. I love to know the lore behind these characters. I felt like when Morgan's character was introduced in The Mandalorian, it was just kind of like out of nowhere. But she was just this magistrate, and Ahsoka was trying to, get the Thrawn, and that was about it. So I was happy to get some backstory into her, and tying her to Thrawn. I don't want to give away too many details for anybody who hasn't seen it, but suffice it to say, I'm sure people have seen the trailers. I'm sure he's in there. But Grievous, going back to the Night Sisters, who I think are a fantastic storyline from the Clone Wars, and if you played the Jedi Survivor series, Miriam from the Jedi Survivor series, also a Night Sister. It was good to see Dathomir again, and it was good to see Grievous being a
scary,
sadistic, nightmarish maniac that he was supposed to be, not this watered down version that we've seen over the last few years. I mean, he was completely psycho in this one, and even his laugh was scary. It didn't just sound like he had an asthma problem or emphysema. He was psychotic, and that's the way General Grievous should be. So it was good to see some how did Morgan get her motivations to become who she was. It was great to see that. And, I think Clone Wars, that storytelling is some of the best storytelling in all of Star Wars, especially when you get to season 6, 7, 8, which, focused on Ahsoka and focused on Barriss Offee. So I was happy to see, some of her story of what happened after the Clone Wars, after Order 66, and what became of her. I thought all in all, and what I noticed from the, from X, from Twitter, because Ro, you posted that it had no business being as good as it was. The people who really enjoyed it gave lots of reasons why they enjoyed it, and then there's people that didn't like it that just said no, it wasn't that good, with no reason given. And as we've shown so far throughout this show, we're not afraid to say, what sucks. Right. I think objectively, Tales of the Jedi is great storytelling and looks beautiful visually.
It does look beautiful visually, and that is one of the things that that really resonated with me, is how well it was written, right from the get-go. Again, like I said, very dramatic, very strong imagery. It pulls you in like that in no time. Did you get a chance to see Tales of the Empire, Andrew?
I did. They were enjoyable. I was a little shocked. I mean, that I'm glad they're not really afraid to go kind of dark with that. The animation on those is beautiful, and I don't know, I don't know what they're doing different there. Like, I mean, some of that animation on, especially with the Morgan Elsbeth stuff, was there were moments where I was like, "What am I watching? Like, this looks so much better than anything animated I've watched in a while." And so
each Star Wars animated show gets like better and better. And like you said, Andrew, I don't know what they're doing.
Well, I guess because maybe these were shorts, they were able to put a lot more in. But I mean, this was some of the best that Star Wars animation has ever looked on screen. The stories are fun. The Barriss Offee. I mean, people have been asking what happened to Barriss for years. It made sense that she might become an Inquisitor. I know people have been expecting her to pop up as an Inquisitor for years, so they went that direction. But she was a character that we always kind of wondered exactly what happened to her and what even drove her to do what she did. I was a little I wanted a little bit different reaction from Vader at seeing Barriss,
to call her out.
Yeah, because Vader really would have a serious problem with Barriss at this point. So I kind of wanted to see something, a little friction there, but we didn't get that. So I'd say that was the one thing that was kind of disappointing to me about it. But yeah, I thought filling in these backstories was good. I mean, I think this is a great way to do it, to fill in these little backstories, give us more about Morgan. Morgan's an interesting character. I mean, this is kind of classic Star Wars storytelling. We just throw somebody that's kind of cool in a show or a movie, and then later we can come back and say, oh, well, you want to know more about that character? Here you go. I mean, we've been doing that with Star Wars for since 1977, really. Is like, wanting to know everything about everybody in the background.
Right.
And so
we're like, what? The Clone Wars? What are those? Then, we gotta wait.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed. I think that I really like this format. I kind of hope they'll lean into it and do more with this format.
Do you guys see a Tales of the Sith maybe coming out in the future? And if so, where do we go story wise on that?
Well, Bane's canon now, so you can do some Darth Bane stuff. But I would think we'd more likely see Tales of the Rebellion before we saw Tales of the Sith.
Yeah, I think we might be a ways out on Tales of the Sith. I think they want to give us things that we've got pieces of in live action, maybe, or in other sorts. We've yet to really venture into an era to explore the Sith much.
Right. Well, I agree 100% with Amanda in the chat. I think Disney is scared to touch Revan. He is canon now, thanks to Return of Skywalker. Revan is canon, so he has been mentioned once or twice now. But I think Disney is absolutely mortified to touch that character. I don't see it happening.
Well, are they still doing the KOTOR reboot, or did that get scrubbed?
I know they re-released it.
Well, there
Like
was a
they're remastering, right?
okay. Well,
Yeah.
they were doing a full-on KOTOR reboot.
Yeah.
But
I know they remastered the game, right?
they did
They did.
And then
for a second time, I think. But you know, I've been saying for almost since we started our podcast that one of the best things that Disney could do to kind of heal the wounds here is give us a good Revan.
Give us a good Revan.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody can fuck it up, it's Disney. I mean, like you know how much of a gamble that is to touch that character and screw it up.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason they haven't done it is because it's risky. Yeah.
I mean, the meme's been around long enough. If it's not Keanu Reeves at this point, nobody wants to see it, since that meme came out years ago.
right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'd be scared for them to touch Revan as well.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where they kind of have to prove themselves. But it's so interesting from a corporate standpoint. Like, I've heard them say that, even during the shenanigans with The Last Jedi, it's like, I just find it hard to believe that somebody actually said, if we don't know what to do with Luke Skywalker after the original trilogy. I'm like, I don't understand that statement.
But now it's so aggravating because they said they wanted to get away from that source material. But now you see what they're doing with this Project Necromancer and every story they put out, even in The Mandalorian, going back to all the cloning stuff. I mean, that's all Dark Empire stuff right there. They're going back to the EU, which is really aggravating because they could have just done that in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's aggravating on one hand. Like I'm happy that Filoni's at least willing to like mine the depths of the EU and bring stuff back. But it's like, and the EU had its problems, but like at this point they would have been more successful to have just given us that.
Yeah.
And I think it's an aspect in corporate culture that you want to kind of develop your own mark on an IP. Obviously, having bought Star Wars from Lucas for X amount of dollars, but I have a feeling that Disney was attuned to what the fans started to say and what the fans were asking for, which brought them back to the creative well, if you will. How many times have you gone to Ross's or Ollie's and saw, Snoke's on clearance, but you release a brand new Stormtrooper that I'm sure everyone has and they fly off the shelves, even if, us older folks are buying them. But, I
saw a post the other day, and this is something I think about a lot, is they keep re-releasing all these Legends books in all these different formats. And I just like to remind people that initially when Disney took over, they said they were going to periodically try to incorporate those into canon. It's what they said when they bought out Lucas. And they have yet to do that. I mean, there are some books that do not conflict with and people are like, some lesser nerds. Why does it matter? I mean, it's to us Uber nerds that have been around. So it does matter. I mean,
Star Wars, it was our Star Wars for a decade.
Yeah, so it does matter. Like if you put Plagueis, if you put the Darth Bane trilogy and you put Plagueis back into canon, that would go a long way with a lot of fans. All they got to do is rip the Legends tag off the spine of the book and just say now, and it doesn't conflict. I can pretty much tell you what happens in those stories from heart. It does not conflict with anything that Disney's put out. And that would go a long way. I wish they would do that.
Yeah. So you mentioned Plagueis, and there's some chat there's some chatter in the chat regarding Darth Plagueis and the Acolyte. So I'm going to skip. We'll talk about the Bad Batch in a second, but I wanted to get to the Acolyte because I think a lot of folks are kind of thinking that hopefully we'll get some sort of EU storyline or characters in the Acolyte once it drops. Andrew, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts? And I think on May the 5th, there was a brand new trailer with some additional material in that was dropped. What do you think? What's your reaction on the Acolyte, and what are your expectations?
So, I mean, there are some scenes that are pretty in the trailers, but there's just nothing. They haven't given me anything yet that's just grabbing me and making me, pulling me in. That might be because, as far as Star Wars projects, this has been the one that I've been the most skeptical of and leery of. Like, I think I'm really afraid that this show is poised to be The Last Jedi 2.0, not in what it is content wise, but in what it might do to the fan base. That's where I'm at on this, is that I actually resent The Last Jedi more for what it did to the fan base than what it put on screen.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
And I'm really scared that this is headed down that same path. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's amazing. I'm not opposed to a little bit darker live action Star Wars, but I have a lot of concerns.
Interesting. Brad, what about you?
He said it. I mean, I based off the topic and the name, I would love to be excited about it, but the feel I get from the trailers is exactly what Andrew was saying. I'm going to deliberately keep my expectations low for that show. It's set in a good time period. I mean, just based off the look of what they're going for, I get High Republic vibes. I'll put it that way. I get High Republic vibes from that show. Yeah. In that it's Star Wars that I don't care to consume. And like Andrew said, I hope I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, and that's interesting because, again, it's the High Republic came out, the literary project was distributed, and some fans enjoy it a lot. We obviously talked about how the fact that we really didn't connect with us. I'm not going in to this project thinking about High Republic. I'm gonna try to kind of work with a blank slate, obviously, because I'm not familiar. I know there's some characters that are in the High Republic that are in this, one or two or whatever. I think I'm probably looking forward to it more than you guys because, one, it's new Star Wars, and I'm always curious about new Star Wars. But two, like I said earlier, I just like the darker tone, and it does seem like they threw a little bit more cash as far as production budget into this. I think some of the shots are pretty, like Andrew said. But I'm hoping that the fandom is pleasantly surprised with some aspect of the show, because we definitely don't want the fandom split like it did with The Last Jedi, and I totally understand your sentiment, Andrew.
I don't think it's going to be as dark as you think it is.
I don't.
I hope it is. I mean, I would really love that because Plagueis, if you read that book, it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
The Darth Bane trilogy, pretty dark
from page one. Yeah,
and if it's that dark, I could, I'll enjoy it. But I don't think I think it's going to be a lot fluffier than that.
Yeah. All right, we'll see.
I hope I'm wrong, but I truly hope I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, everybody seems to be saying the same thing. I really hope it's dark, but I don't think it will be. And hello to Backyard TARDIS, Nick, one of our supporters.
But Ro, I will. Sorry, I just completely. There was a line from the Sith Code from the trailer where one of the characters said that piece is a lie. So I'll give him credit for that. Hopefully, it was intentional that they threw a line of the Sith Code in there. That piece is a lie. So that maybe I'm gonna latch onto that and give it a little bit of hope.
I mean, the concept is interesting. I mean, you have these characters that come in and say, it's not about who wields the power. It's who's what is it? Who lets you wield the power? Something like that. So I think, I think of those kind of like weird little pseudo political machinations, and I think of you, Brad, all the time, and I think it might be something that that we can kind of sink our teeth into when it comes to the politics of Star Wars in universe, not politics, obviously, that everybody else talks about, but the politics of the Jedi versus the Sith and how the Jedi relate to being exclusive users of the Force. I think there's something to be said about the transference of that power between the two groups, and I think that for me is going to be an interesting thing to kind of experience if they flesh it out.
Yeah, and I think too that one thing that could be cool if they incorporate this into the story. For 1,000 years, the Sith are trying to maintain the rule of two for 1,000 years, and you're talking about some power hungry maniacs, and they're trying to maintain the rule of two, but at the same time, they also have to screw with the Jedi, and trying to maintain their secrecy and trying to make bring that order back to life. If they can incorporate some of that into the story, I think that'd be great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. We hopefully soon, Brad and I are going to get back on the microphone and record some stuff. But you guys in the chat, if you guys want to contribute to this conversation, we'll revisit some of the things. Please give the Scarif Scuttlebutt hotline a call, 773-234-8659. Call today.
Pay tomorrow,
and leave us a message. Any topic or anything that we're talking about tonight, we'll love to.
We got to get a Tatooine hot takes show back in.
Yes, absolutely. Any final thoughts on the Acolyte? We'll switch topics here as we continue our discussion this evening.
I've been hurt too much. I'm going to keep the bar low.
Yeah,
I'm ready to be pleasantly.
That seems to be the consensus among Star Wars fans.
I don't want to be overly negative about it before it even comes out, but I've had a bad feeling about this one ever since it was announced. And so I'm trying to temper my expectations. If it's good, I'll come out and say it's good. Like, I have no issue with that. I do think that it's got, there are things in there that give it potential. Like, I think it's got the potential to be really, really good. I think it's well cast. I think that some of the plot points they've given us so far are interesting. But I'm a little afraid of kind of a postmodernist take on Star Wars. I'm afraid that's what this is, and don't think we need that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to run a couple of spots. Captain Wrecked, who's in the chat, if he's still in the chat, did some funny little TV spots. They remind me of the old Dodge or Chevy truck commercials that they're really good. I'm going to refill my tea while we enjoy these. Hold on. Where did I put them? Here we go. There's two spots. They're really funny. I'll put them in the audio as well. Really cool. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Did you ever pack up a little one to go on an adventure, confident in the fact that your vehicle can pick up a little one, get the groceries, take care of business, and still outrun the law? That's what flying a Razor Crest feels like. Imperial Insurance sold separate. You ever pack your family on a road trip, then suddenly realize you made it all the way to Imperial Center, surrounded by a bunch of brainwashed clones doing the bidding of an evil Sith Lord? That's how it feels to fly a Marauder.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for that contribution. And Brad, are you familiar with Cerveza Cristal and that whole controversy?
No.
All right.
What did I miss?
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know later, but that's a nice little tease. Where did I go? Here I am. Excellent. All right. So speaking of Star Wars animation, we finally got the finale for the series we like to call Bad Batch. And for someone, I don't know if we talked about this when the Bad Batch first came out, Brad. When that series was first announced, I was one of those, I'm not the guy that says who asked for this movie or who asked for the series, but when the Bad Batch was announced, I turned into that guy. I'm like, who wants this? Like, it's fine for like an episode or two on the Clone Wars, but a whole series about the Bad Batch. I was pleasantly surprised as the first season rolled out, second season obviously, but these characters really started to grow on me. What were your thoughts, Brad, on the announcement of the Bad Batch as a show, and how has your I guess your temperature, how has it felt watching season 1, 2, and 3? We'll talk about the finale and the third season, but what were your overall reaction to the Bad Batch in general?
Initially, it was like what you were saying. I think they were a nice little storyline with the extra Clone Wars material that we got. Did not, like the Solo movie, did not think that it was needed, nor did anybody ask for it. But, when it came out in the first season, I kind of got a Rebels vibe. I was not a big fan of Star Wars Rebels when it came out. I thought it was very childlike.
It started out like that.
It did, but then, much like Rebels, it grew up real quick. Something that got a little annoying to me with Bad Batch is the, just a little gopher, episodes that they would have. Oh, we got to go do this thing and pick up that.
Oh yeah.
I thought those
are the weeks.
Yeah, those were a little bit annoying, but the overall storyline and how it just a small group, there was a microcosm and a macrocosm there, how their little story fit into the bigger picture of what was happening with Star Wars at that time. It really grew on me, I didn't, Star Wars, I don't care if we need it or not. Like you're saying, nobody asked for anything. I grew, the series grew on me a lot over time. And, I was able to, I missed when most of the season came out, so I was able to binge it all at one time. And I'm like, wow, this is some serious stuff here that they're doing. And, what happened at the end of season 2 with Tech, and like, these are very adult storylines that are going, it's animation. You mentioned this, this week, why are the best storylines animated these days? It's crazy. These are ridiculously good storylines. And I won't spoil my thoughts on the finale, but
Sure.
I think leading up to the finale, great season and really, really good storytelling.
Yeah, it's funny because I did mention that to somebody that it was on Twitter, but the animated shows for Star Wars have been surprisingly good. I mean, we talked about obviously the Tales of the Empire. Bad Batch was written,
even the kids stuff. I don't know, you probably have no reason to like the stuff they're putting out for the kids, the Lego stuff, the Young Jedi Adventures, and
Legos have always been great.
The Freemakers from a few years, like all the animated stuff that they put out has been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, what about you? Are you into the Bad Batch?
I am. I real quick, I want to say to Amanda's comment there is a common thread that runs from Lucasfilm as Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm under Disney and as Dave Filoni. I mean, it's however you feel about Dave, like he at least learned how to tell these stories directly from George Lucas. And it doesn't mean that everything he does is perfect, but like it is a common thread that has held the animated universe together really well.
What happened with Ahsoka then?
I mean, I didn't hate Ahsoka, but like you gave,
it's not animated. It doesn't count as discussion.
I don't even think the story is. I mean, the storytelling is not really even the problem there.
Right.
Dave does some things in animation. He does some things that can be frustrating in animation, where he sprinkles in things. I mean, like we got Ventress halfway through the season, ended up having very little to do with the season at all.
Mm-hmm.
We could have done that. We could have had a host of other characters that gave us that information, but he wanted to put Ventress in there because he's got something in mind that may not happen till 3 or 4 years down the road.
Yeah.
But he wanted to bring Ventress back because he's got a plan, and it's like, but you didn't have to, you're sprinkling things in here so you can come back and play with them in your sandbox later. But
Right.
I didn't mind. Ventress was cool, but so yeah, I kind of like when this show came out, like I was completely disinterested in this. I didn't even particularly like the characters that much. I thought that it was kind of a weird idea that the cloners who do everything right have these defective clones and actually like train them.
Or let them live.
Right. The Kaminoans are kind of cold. Like you would think they would just discard defective clones.
Mm-hmm.
And just,
but they kept 99 around.
Yeah. But just like it works for me now. Like I didn't care about it. Like I thought having those characters was a little weird, unless they were, one of the Kaminoans was manipulating them to have these skills and wasn't like talking about it, but whatever. Like I ended up loving this show. Like it's probably my, if I'm going to rank the shows, it's still my third favorite animated series, but Clone Wars is a really, really high bar for anything.
Sure.
And really so is Rebels. Once it got going, Rebels just got better and better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to measure up to those, but what they did in 3 short seasons, was very, very good, and it told a lot of it's filling in a lot of gaps that we needed filled in. At least,
and there's still room to grow.
What gaps did you think it filled in?
Well, I mean, it doesn't answer anything, but it at least gives us some insight into Project Necromancer and stuff like that. We at least have some idea of what, before it's just one of these things. It's like, we know it's happening, but we hadn't gotten looks at it yet. We're getting little pieces of that. I mean, I don't think it like filled in this big thing, but I don't think it's a totally pointless series either. I think it gives us, it at least gives us something.
I just want to talk about the name there for a second. I know this is me being a Star Wars nerd and thinking way too much into this, but necromancy is bringing something back from the dead.
Yeah.
At this time, the Emperor was not dead. So like the obvious thing is it's the cloning for the Emperor for his eventual, transference or whatever. But necromancy is bringing something back from the dead. So I thought that, this is me thinking way beyond Bad Batch storyline, but I always go back to Plagueis, and I think Snoke was part of that, and necromancy is bringing something back. So if they were trying to bring something back, who were they trying to bring back from the dead? Again, I'll let the chat wait on that one. Maybe I'm thinking way too much, but the Emperor was very much alive at this point. So I thought it was an interesting title for the project.
Unless he foresaw his demise.
Well, sure. I mean, that's the obvious answer, but me being me, I like to look a little bit more into it than that.
Sure.
Yeah. I think the most interesting part of the Bad Batch, though, is kind of delving into the plight of the clones in the aftermath of the Republic. So I think that was interesting. That's the one thing I wish they had done more with.
Yeah.
I think that was something they kind of left on the table there.
And Crosshairs could have his own series for all I'm concerned. I think Crosshairs is the best character on there since the first season. I liked him the best out of all of them.
Yeah, he had definitely an interesting arc. I think the acting between the characters too, the voice actors was pretty phenomenal. I think
D and D.
Right. It was really, really great to see. I mean, the way that he keeps it, all organized in his head, I'd be like spinning. One of the things that I really enjoyed too was the introduction, or the not the introduction, the reintroduction really or the integration of Mount Tantus. But I do feel like they should have gone a little further with what is located in that location. But somebody had pointed out that there was a mountain range right next to Mount Tantus that looked very similar, that had the ridges and the spaceports. And what's over there? If Tarkin Tarkin kind of decommissioned this main mountain, was because supposedly isn't like some of the artifacts that Palpatine collected are located in this secret facility. The like Sith artifacts and some other things that the Jedi held. Wasn't that part of some sort of EU conversation?
I think Tantus was, but I just want to say that you texted me earlier this week and it said the autocorrect made it Mount Dentist, and it took me about a day to figure out what the hell you were talking about with Mount Dentist, and I'm like, am I miss did I miss something in the Bad Batch? Was there a dentistry thing in the? But yeah, I think that was a nod to something from the past.
Yeah. Yeah, Captain Rex said in the Timothy Zahn books.
Yeah.
Which fascinating. One of the things that Sean from Extra Star Wars was commenting on regarding the a few tail end episodes of the Bad Batch, he wasn't too crazy about the series towards the end turning into Clone Wars episodes. And I don't see how they could not have been, especially because there were clones that they were rescuing. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't understand that comment. I mean, it was born from the Clone Wars, and I don't no, I mean, like, what was he getting at?
I guess he was enjoying the overall story of the Bad Batch, and all of a sudden, it gets lost in the minutia of telling a Clone Wars like story, something that he found distracting or different. But again, you're right; it's born from the Clone Wars, so I don't see how it could not have.
I've got criticisms. That's not one of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the criticisms. The series finale of the Bad Batch, a little longer episode. I have one question. Who actually was the cavalry?
It was the beaten up three of them.
Right.
I don't know. I'm telling you, it's Tarkin coming down with his crew. I have no idea who it. And we didn't get a longer, like the other seasons were 16 episodes, and this one was 15. So all they did was combine the last two episodes.
Right.
I was really excited when I saw that, and then.
But thoughts.
So I don't know what he meant by it. I didn't know what he meant by Clone Wars episodes, but I did feel like this was just another episode.
It was lackluster.
I was.
That's the perfect word.
I do not see how that's a series finale. I don't even particularly see how that's a season. I mean, I could kind of see it as a season finale. Even as a season finale, that would be a lackluster season finale. But I don't see it as a series finale at all. I mean, it was just like everything was so predictable. Ro, you and I talked about ahead of time, like if Vader shows up and slaughters the entire Bad Batch, I'm happier with that.
That would have been great. That's what I wanted. That's what I expected.
I honestly thought, because Asajj could have been full of shit when she was saying that, she has no potential. Asajj is known to lie quite a bit. She could have been lying about that. I thought for sure that Omega was going to show up some sort of force ability in the last episode. I mean, it's okay that she didn't, but I thought the extreme circumstances were going to kind of bring it out of her. But we didn't get anything out of that. She acted like a good member of the Bad Batch, but I thought there was going to be more to her. And then just the obligatory Tarkin give all the money to Project Stardust.
Right.
Geez, man. I don't know. It was like earlier in the season where they're having a conference and he mentioned Stardust. I like that. I like a small nod to the Death Star project. Obviously,
it seemed like the whole thing was rolling just to that moment, and it wasn't enough.
No, and the Emperor is not going to divert money from his cloning project to the Death Star project. Those two have nothing to do with each other. Yeah. But it was just, there was no, it wasn't building up to anything. Andrew, it's funny that you mentioned Filoni's sandbox, because I said the same thing to Ro earlier in the week. I felt like some of this, like the Zillow Beast. Why the hell is a Zillow Beast? We all loved the Zillow Beast back in the Clone War. Maybe that's what he was talking about. We all loved the Zillow Beast back in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah, it was
but why the hell is there a Zillow Beast in this cloning facility?
I don't know. The only thing, I mean, they kind of indicated at some point that it might be like that something about the testing. They were testing the Zillow Beast for, but it's a stretch. It is. But it's like it was. I feel like some of the pieces were there. It was just a little too conveniently arranged.
It's a plot device. It was a plot device. And
it's in the end it's just kind of abrupt. It's not. It doesn't feel like a finale in any way.
She already escaped from that place once, so it was like, okay, she did it again.
That's the one thing that bothered me, because the middle of that episode seemed like a repeat and reuse. It's like, hey, we escaped with some clones. Wait, there's more clones as prisoners. Let's go back and escape again. It's like, it was a little too repetitive.
There
was all those poor clones killed too.
I mean, you mentioned that other storyline that they had going throughout the season of what happens to the clones afterwards, and I would have, like you said, I would have much rather them focused on that. And there was the episode where they were talking about the new recruitment of individuals across the galaxy, and I think they should have focused on that storyline more.
Yeah, and I did like, although I did like the I guess I don't know what you would call them, the dark assassin trooper dudes that came out of the test tubes.
I just didn't feel like we got enough of them, though. It was kind of,
but you know what? It was a little bit of a bait and switch too, because everybody obviously in the fandom was talking about, maybe Tech is alive, maybe Tech is reanimated, and there's one of those dark trooper dudes that they kept focusing on, and holding, holding the shot a little too long, making it seem like, oh, this could be Tech. But it ended up being nobody, just another green fart in the wind again. Just like so.
Well, so I'm sorry, Nick in the chat, he's talking about the conversation with Emery, confirmed that Omega didn't have the Force. Yeah, but see what pisses me off about that is we make this big deal about M count, and I love the fact that they finally made midichlorians relevant. I even told Ro that a week ago. I love that they made midichlorians relevant again, but then just to say you can have this high M count, and then it counts for nothing. That's I don't know. I think that seems off.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean that seems to be contrary to the science, so to speak, of midichlorians.
Well, we get a glimpse of there's a little time shift at the end of that episode where Omega's a little older and the Bad Batch are a little older and stuff like that. And, we can see the setup. If we're going to get anything like Tales of the Rebellion, it might be at this instant, because she mentions that she's going to go off and fight in the rebellion because they need help. But that, I don't know. It's a weird little setup, but again, it's Filoni's sandbox that he likes to kind of put action figures all over the place, and we don't know where we're going to go with it until we get there. Yeah,
we deserve better. I would say the series deserved better, a better ending than that.
I would have to agree. I would give it 3 out of 10, maybe 5 out of 10.
There was something about that. Even the filler episodes, a lot of the fetch quest episodes, the story at least flows well. There's something about this one that just feels like it was edited together by a completely different person.
The pacing was off.
Yeah, it's just like it's all chopped together, and it just feels very disjointed. Like I said, it doesn't even feel in some ways like the same show.
I like the fact that they were all beaten up going into it. Like Wrecker,
I mean, again, I thought people were going to die. I thought Wrecker was going to die. I thought some of them were going to.
Yeah, Wrecker's a very killable character when it comes down to it. Crosshairs, like going out, getting redemption by sacrificing himself.
That would have
been cool to see. But just none of that happened. It was like, yep, well, she escaped. it couldn't have
Yeah.
been more predictable.
And again, I wanted Darth Vader to show up and clean house, basically. But
Something. Yeah, nothing.
Nicole's like, there was a death
Who died?
besides Tech. Yeah, who died? Oh,
The-
Doctor, what's his name? No, the
Hey,
Rampart.
who cares?
Right. Yeah. He was like a nobody character that they broke out.
He doesn't count.
Yeah.
Give me sure. Man, talk about a beaten up character. She was rough Nala was rough she was depressed.
Yeah.
That was a depressed Nala say. Yeah, I'll all right, Nicole, I'll give you that one. But
Yeah.
it's gotta be one of the Bad Batch for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Omega would be a great rebel character later on. So if he is setting something up for that would be cool.
Sure. Yeah. How about a live action mentioned somewhere? Somebody. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on anything we talked about today from the panel?
I said this before I left for deployment last year. We said it was a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and I think this weekend was another reminder of that. We had stuff from 25 years ago being re-released. We had new content being released. Around the same storyline, around the same story, and it's bringing us all together. And it's Tuesday night, and we're all chatting here, and so it's great to have something that can bring us together like that, and just let us be nerds. So I couldn't be happier with the Star Wars weekend that we had, and the rest of May is looking good as well.
Absolutely. The rest of May, including the real Star Wars Day, May 25th. For those of us with a little gray in our beard, remember that day. But Andrew, I wanted to talk to you because you had posted that this is a kind of a new beginning for your podcast. But what do you have planned?
So I don't have a lot of specifics planned, but we're back. We're going to record new episodes of both shows this week, and the Padawan Report. Padawan Report's going to kind of undergo a little bit of an evolution where
aren't they masters yet?
No, not yet. Well, so one of the things that is going to happen with Marisha being gone, when Marisha's gone working, even when she's working a movie locally, she's just not really available to do this. So one of the things that's going to happen is my oldest child is going to be stepping in to on the main show.
Very nice.
So that's going to happen. Nicole's mentioning Muppets. We're definitely going to get back to that, doing the Muppet stuff. It's a good month to do it because we've got that big Jim Henson documentary coming out at the end of May on Disney Plus that I think Ron Howard did. It looks really good. So like I said, I hadn't planned a lot of specifics. I've got a weekly like a 10-minute episode that'll drop on right now. I think we're thinking Thursday mornings will be pre-recorded video. It's going to be me and my brother doing a quick kind of a weekly news desk kind of thing.
Okay.
So we're going to be dropping that, I believe, on Thursday mornings. Other than that, I'm just glad to be back at it. Like, we're going to be doing more content across the board. Iana's going to be stepping into a role. That's my oldest daughter. Will be stepping into a role filling in for Marisha when she's not here, at least some of the time. Hopefully David's going to be back. David's getting married this weekend.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of crazy. David's kind of grown up on the show, like
Sure.
So David, I think David was only like 17 when he started coming on the show some, and now he's getting married. So I'm not sure. I'm sure he's going to take a little bit of a time away, but I'm sure he'll be back.
Cool.
And then the Padawan Report's going to undergo a little bit of a change where I'm going to still host some episodes, but Iana's going to start hosting some episodes with her siblings, her cousins, some of her friends, where they're just going to do so we can just kind of get a take from the younger generation on some of this stuff without me directly involved with the what goes on the audio. So yeah, few evolutions to what we've been doing, but we're really looking forward to getting back at it.
Excellent. Looking forward to that. And Brad, once you teach Liam how to say Inquisitorius, he's got to come on the podcast with you.
He was supposed to be on tonight, but he passed out. He was a goner before 8 o'clock. So we'll get him on.
We'll get him on for sure, just like his dad.
Yes.
So
he'll take over the show if he comes on. I guarantee you that.
Excellent. So what do we have coming up, Brad? You and I know I mentioned that I really want to do I started to do it, but it just wasn't the same without you.
You shouldn't. Are you going to give details on that? I think we should just say that fear leads to anger.
Right.
Anger leads to hate. And hate leads to suffering,
and leave it at that.
Just leave it at that.
Excellent.
You guys can figure it out. We're going to get back to our Scuttle roots. We talk about that deep stuff here on the Scuttlebutt, and now that I'm back, that's what we're going to be doing.
Excellent. Let's piss some people off.
We're not good at much, but what we are good at.
Exactly.
We're masters.
So thank you, everybody. Andrew, thank you, of course. And Brad, welcome back. The chat has been wonderful. You guys have been great hanging out with us on a special Scarif Live. We usually do these on Saturdays, but welcome back, Brad, of course. And Andrew, thank you again for hanging out with us. Your second home, obviously, here at the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Awesome chat. Look at the folks are in the chat chatting away, and it's wonderful. I'm glad that people remember us, Brad.
Can you make me I was just thinking about, as you said, welcome back. Can you make me like a welcome back Cotter sort of theme and put it on Twitter? That would really make my day. Now that I've said that, I know you're going to do it because you can't resist.
And then get Cam to do him one.
Oh, I'm sure Cam. Yeah, Cam would do we'll get a professional to do it.
Too funny. Yeah, he'll do it. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Until next time. What is today? Today is Tuesday. So Thursday, I'm dropping the second episode discussion with who am I talking with? I'm talking with somebody about Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. We are continuing our discussion with our discussions with regarding the Phantom Menace. We're talking about the story of the Phantom Menace. Mark Newbold from Fantatrax and I discuss, and I put him through a series of questions too towards the end. Don't miss this week's Sentry Mode. 5 questions, wonderful time that we have with folks. Bring them on in and ask them some Star Wars questions. Some people do pretty good. Others don't. So we'll see how Mark does this later on this week. And I'll probably drop this audio as well. If people missed it on the YouTubes and rather listen to us chat while they're driving to and fro, that will be available as well. All right, guys. Love everybody in the chat. Thank you for hanging out. Andrew, Brad, thank you so much. Until next time, that's Brad and Andrew. I'm Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Until next time, remember to grab your sunscreen and your blaster. Why, Brad?
Because it's always sunny on Scarif, and that's the Scuttlebutt.
Woohoo!